Be greedy when others are fearful, or be fearful when others are greedy. This is a famous quote by none other than Warren Buffett himself. This is a very famous quote that is often quoted among financial enthusiasts, or experts alike. And what it really means in a nutshell is just knowing the timing to when to get into the market or when to get out of the market, and how, when using the emotions that we find ourselves in within this industry, financial industry in general, to your best advantage. So you enter the markets when there's a lot of uncertainty, fear, and doubt, right? When there's fear, that's when you should be greedy. And when there's too much euphoria, everybody's talking about it, hype and greedy, that's when you should get out. So unfortunately, our minds can't really handle that, right? Because if you're not knowledgeable, you let emotions get the best of you, and you can't literally use this advice or use this quote from Warren Buffett, right? But what are we going to learn out of this session? Hopefully, the takeaway of this session is not only when to get into the markets. However, we're also going to see what are the futures that you look for in an investment, right? What are the futures? What are the qualifications? What are the qualities of that asset that you look for? And then finally, we also, as we will progress throughout this session, will realize that indeed, sustainable, the key word is sustainable yield-bearing assets in this new era of digital assets is the key, right? So sustainable yield-bearing assets, in other words, proof of stake assets, stakeable tokens, digital assets that are sustainable are the future, as we will see throughout this session today. So let's start with this article right here from Warren Buffett. He just put in close to $500 million into a single asset. Really, the asset itself, the name of it is irrelevant. We'll focus heavily on the futures of the asset that he went for, and hopefully we'll take away something from it. The timing is very interesting because now is a time where people are losing patience, people are unsettled, fearful, doubtful, impatient, like we said, but now is the time to pounce. Now is the time to get in. Now is the times to aim for and look for certain futures in the markets. You get in when the markets are fearful. It's the perfect breeding ground right now for smart money, right? Because now there's too much fear leading. So billionaire Warren Buffett injected close to $500 million into a single asset. Now, another thing that we need to highlight here is that after dropping Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo, these three banks should ring a bell, and actually we'll look at it in more detail because maybe the names don't tell us much, but numbers will make it even clearer what's happening here and the real impact of this. But let's go further down here. Just one more thing I would like us to look at, or a few more things rather. So like we said, Warren Buffett is pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into a single investment, right? After creating a huge cash pile. By the way, his cash pile sits at over $340 billion. So this is just something small that he just put into the market right now. So he's still sitting on over 340 billion cash pile. So that he, by steadily selling shares, right, of Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Wells Fargo. So another thing that we need to understand here is that what are the current futures that this asset has that he bought? Let's look at that. And he now owns over 35% of that company's outstanding shares. So over 1/3, he's literally owning the company, literally. So this is something that we need to really look at closely. So first of all, what are the futures? What made him purchase this asset? First of all, he is attempting, right? The purchase is an attempt to buy the dip, right? We're all familiar with that, right? And in the satellite and online radio entertainment service company. So this means that, like we always been saying, you look at assets that are not overpriced, overvalued, right? So you look at assets that have potential, but are not, and have gone through some sell-offs, right now. So again, this company is irrelevant. We want to focus on the future. So he looked at this stock, this company that had dropped by 45% within the last year. And another thing also that is interesting is it's within the industry that it's in, within the it's been actually underperforming, right, by a whole 30%. Another thing also in Q1 of 2025, it dropped by 4% in revenue as well. And in Q2, it actually even reported continued subscriber losses of 5%. And the revenue decrease as well. And you would ask yourself, why would someone purchase an asset that both in Q1 and Q2 of 2025 have been both continuously losing subscribers and revenue, and also is lagging by 30% behind the S&P 500? And you not just buy a little bit of it, but you literally purchase 1/3 of it, that you own 35% of the outstanding shares. So this is a huge buy. Why would you do that? So the first thing that we see here, like we say, it's at a bargain, obviously. And secondly, it's this right here. It offers a 5.2% dividend yield. So yield plays a major role for to Warren. He wants something that has not just a strong brand, but also has recurring revenue model. You earning yield. So get it cheap, get it low, and it has to, that's not enough, but also make sure that it also gives you yield. So these were the futures that we can take away from this article that I believe will help us and guide us as we progress throughout this session. So takeaway is that Warren Buffett purchased 1/3 of a company, 35% to be exact, of the outstanding shares, that within the last 52 weeks, which is a year, has dropped by 45%, right? Has dropped by 45%. Within the first and second quarter of 2025, has dropped 4% and 5% respectively in revenue, and also has been continuously losing subscribers, right, as well. However, it's issuing 5% dividend, and it has a strong brand, and it's a recurring revenue model that Warren Buffett investors, income-focused investors like Warren Buffett, like. You want to have recurring revenue, right? So now that we understand that, let's go back to the banks. Let's go back to these three banks and identify why is it so significant. Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Wells Fargo. Why would he sell off large sums of these banks, like the stocks? Let's look at these three banks. They're not just some random banks. If you look at the top 10 biggest banks in the US, based on assets, you'll realize that you'll see those banks right here. Obviously, JP Morgan being the largest one at 3.4 trillion. And then you also see Bank of America at 2.6 trillion, and then Wells Fargo as at 1.7 trillion. So these are the three largest banks in the US, with major thousands of branches across the US, and also present in multiple foreign countries as well. So let's move on and look at some more facts here. Another thing I'd like to share with today is also by answering the question why. So the natural question we ask ourselves, why? Why would you drop the banks? It's because, first of all, those banks have been around for 100 years. They've met and reached their maturity. They're at their peak. They're not going to give you another 5 or 10 or 100 decks. And also, they're still on an old and outdated technology. With this bill passing, with the US passing the stablecoin bill, bringing a huge milestone into the crypto industry, and this opens doors for new and up and coming smaller projects, smaller companies with way more growth potential to now take center stage. I'd like us to pay attention to this right here. So stablecoin bill is one thing, but it also requires stablecoin issuers, right, to back their stablecoins with liquid assets. In this case, what are the liquid assets in question here? There are treasuries, US bonds, US debt. Why is this so significant? Because now it gives the US an opportunity to, through these stablecoin issuers, to bring back demand for the bond markets. Why is that so relevant? Because bonds dictate interest rate. The more bonds are being purchased, the lower the interest rates. So this is an opportunity for the US to be able to drop the interest rate without causing inflation, without having to mint fiat and cause even more inflation. So this is a win-win, both for the stablecoin issuers and the US as well as a global reserve currency. So this is something that we need to keep in mind and need to connect the dots. And this is what smart money, this is what Warren Buffett is seeing, that banks will no longer be in high demand, and holding matured stocks and assets that reach their peaks already is not beneficial to him. He needs to now rearrange and reposition his liquid assets into new up and coming assets, right? So big tech companies and foreign stablecoin issuers are of interest right now. So we'll dedicate a whole video on this on another time. Right now, I just want us to focus on the stablecoin bill and the liquid assets required, which are US bonds. And also, let's look at something else here. Why Warren Buffett literally chose to sell off the banks, the top 3 banks stocks. So also the stablecoin issuer, Circle, we heard about this. They applied already for a national bank charter. So they literally want to become a bank. Now, Circle just had an IPO 2 weeks ago and is sitting at roughly between 20 to 40 billion market cap. It's a micro market cap, very small. And in order for them to be able to reach the 300 or 400 billion market cap, like the likes of JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, they still have a good 10 to 20x in them. And that's the type of investments that smart money like Warren Buffett are looking for, investments that give you an opportunity or a chance to get in and be able to make that type of gain early on. So this is the reason why with you see that there's new companies, new technologies that are emerging with huge potential that are literally getting ready to reshape the financial system. Another thing that I also want to highlight here is that how lucrative stablecoins is. So it's not just they're doing it because of passion and because they're crypto enthusiasts, but rather, if you look at Tether here, they are literally breaking record by the quarter. Like this quarter, they've broken the record. As you see here in Q1, they've broken the record by actually initially having $1 billion in profits within the first quarter. And they even have 5.6 billion in excess, right? In excess reserves. That means they have more excess backing of their stable coins. So this just shows how they are literally the market leaders, and they literally are on top of the market, the industry. And this just shows you how lucrative it is to be a stablecoin issuer. So this is why you see the likes of big tech companies like Amazon, Walmart, and Meta, which is formerly known as Facebook, all contemplating to issue their stablecoins. It's extremely lucrative. Also, governments are very lenient and are accommodating for them to support them to issue them, because like we looked at it, it's going to help the bond market, US bond market. It's going to bring down the interest rates, and that will have this will enable both the lenders and borrowers to have access to a lower interest rate, meaning cheaper liquidity, cheaper access to money, to fiat, in that way, without having to print fiat. So we see how all these things is playing together. And another thing I want us to look at here, of course, as well, is how, just in case there's talks about, staking is a security, that's not the case. That's another great milestone. Crypto staking on proof of stake blockchains are not securities. There's something that the SEC has already put out there. So it's not a security, not at all. And because it's part of securing, you're literally securing and stabilizing the network. So if you're participating to secure and stabilize the network, you get incentivized, you get rewarded for that. And that's what staking is about. It's a proof of stake mechanism. It's a mechanism that is used to secure the ecosystem, the token, the network, and to stabilize it. And you need to reward the participants. And that's what staking is about. This is another thing that really just highlights the impact of staking. And its impact is so huge that major market leaders already are jumping on it and going all in on it. Like Robinhood, for example, they're now offering, since within a week now, just a few days ago, in France, they did a major presentation displaying all the products they are going to come out with. And one of them was Ethereum and Solana staking services for US customers. This is huge, community, because keep in mind, like we said, sustainable yield-bearing assets are the future. We just saw Warren Buffett going for an asset that, yes, it's at a discount, half price. However, the futures it had, it's giving yield over 5%. So you want an asset that still has growth potential, plus it also issues yield, recurring revenue. That's the future of digital assets, specifically staking, proof of stake assets that are sustainable, have sustainable staking platforms. That's the future. So this is something that is very vital, and we see that smart money are making fast moves and are moving in quickly, offering products such as these before their competitors. Another thing is also just to look at their product and services that they're providing. Robinhood is literally launching stock tokens. We're talking about NVIDIA, their own stock. We're talking about Microsoft, Apple, so on and so forth. That type of tokenized stock that they're getting ready to launch. Also, they're getting ready to launch their own layer 2 blockchain, of course, also based on Ethereum. And then they're also expanding their products and services beyond Europe and US as well. They're offering products known as perpetual futures. These are in the derivatives market, right? This is where you can use leverage. You can use literally debt, right? To bet, to make your debt, to make your bets on whether the prices are going up or low. And also, of course, like we just looked at earlier, staking, specifically Ethereum and Solana. So these are the products among many that they're offering and showcased just a few days ago in France, presenting that they are going all in on crypto. And they also, even though they don't have, they didn't apply for a bank charter like Circle did, but they're offering banking products. These are the reasons why you see here Warren Buffett looking at all of this and selling his major bank, largest banks, shares and stocks, knowing that the future is digital and you want to be part of it early on in the early stages to make the most out of it. These are well-established banks and financial institutions that have been around, like we said, for a century. They've hit their maturity level. They're still operating under the traditional financial system that is outdated. And companies like Robinhood and Circle that are up and coming and that are using the latest blockchain technologies, embracing them and offering these latest digital asset products that are both that offer staking or yield rewards and yield are offering yield on their assets. These are the future. This is what the future is bringing. And having a large product and services such as Robinhood is offering right now, or Circle is about to offer, this is the future of finance community. So when we read articles such as these and we see how very cash heavy individual and very famous and well-known investor Warren Buffett, that literally coined the phrase that be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. Right now, many are fearful, uncertain, and are losing patience. Meanwhile, he's pouncing in and grabbing stocks and shares of undervalued, high potential assets that are literally offering yield. And this is exactly what you want. Position yourself in times when others are fearful, so that when others are greedy and coming in, you are already where you need to be and you can make your moves. So as always, these are just public information that we're sharing with you. And none of this that is said is financial advice, but it's always nice to just study how those who made it in finance or the market leaders in finance are making moves, and just to highlight and share with us so that we are aware of it. That's it for today's video. That's my opinion, but let me hear more about you in the comment section below. How are these moves and what moves are you going to make during this cycle? With that said, thank you very much, community. Till we meet again. Bye-bye, everyone.